Hi, I'm Sarah from BMS Wellness. Today I'm bringing you a little chat about nutrition and weight management. We hear all the sayings, eat less, move more, you definitely will lose weight, or sweat, make yourself sweat, you'll lose weight. And there's all kinds of different ways to lose weight. Some people just go on with straight starvation. Some people use colon cleanses, and some people actually do it the traditional way. But it doesn't always work for everybody. Regardless of how you try to lose weight, it doesn't always work. And why? Sometimes people are just not being honest, right? They claim that they're counting their calories, they're eating all the right foods, but they're cheating at night sometimes and things like that. So that's kind of a human foible. We can't help it. We get cravings. I know for one, from 10 p.m. to midnight, it's pretty hard to stay away from the nuts and the chips. So I go for walks sometimes. Also, there's age. As we get older, we stop producing human growth hormones sometime between 36 and 40. So cells don't repair as fast. Injuries tend to linger longer and harder to work around. Sometimes you can get enough injuries that it prevents you from reaching your fitness goals altogether. And some people just give up because it gets too hard after a while. Then there's other age-related issues like hormones. Both men and women, hormones will start to slowly diminish over time. Now we know about the menopause. Us women just love the menopause. And menopause is an interesting situation because the kind of hormones that are changing in menopause, estrogen and progesterone predominantly, but women also have some testosterone. As the estrogen lowers, your gut function slows down. Also, estrogen helps metabolize fat. So if you're not able to metabolize fat quickly enough, your body will just store it. Guess where? Usually in the belly and in the glutes and the butt area for ladies. And many men will just get the big beer belly sometimes too. So a lot of the hormones can also have an effect. You may be eating right, you may be training right, you may be doing everything right, but your hormones are working against you. And let's not forget hydration. If you don't drink enough water or fluids to rehydrate your body, like broth or herbal tea or anything like that, you can have some very sticky colon walls, which means that you'll actually have stool stuck to the colon wall. It could be impacted there for years. And over time, like by the time you hit my age, 55, you could literally have 20 pounds of poop in your body. That's probably why fasts are also good to do, but very hard. And if you do too many fasts, or if you starve yourself for too long, like intermittent fasting, you can also slow down your gut function so much that you give yourself almost permanent constipation. I have known people who've done things like that, and when they got too stuck, they started using things like Metamucil and these colon cleansers, and all that did was lead to a gut stasis, like where it just barely moves at all, and by the time they're 59, 65-ish, sometimes they end up in the hospital with an obstruction because the poop can't move at all and it's just stuck there. It needs to be surgically flushed out. That's pretty rough. So don't forget your water. Important. And then finally, there's other issues as well, like gut function. Like I have a condition called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. For me, if I don't stick to a very, very, very stringent diet of, lots of fiber and vegetables and high quality meats and not too much grains, I'll balloon out. I can eat just the wrong thing one day and literally be 3-4 pounds heavier the next day. And obviously I didn't eat too much. That's just water weight, but it's still weight. And when you gain that kind of weight, especially quickly, water weight, the joints swell and they're more easily injured in your next training sessions, and the muscles spasm more easily. All kinds of things go wrong. And again, it's easy to just give up and walk away. So today I want to talk a little bit about nutrition. When the COVID first started, I guess now about a year ago, we went into lockdown last March. And I thought, well, let's do something positive with myself. Why shouldn't I take a nutrition course? I've always believed food is medicine. I believe that if I just adjust my diet correctly, just the right way, I'll be able to reach my fitness goals, maintain the weight that I would like to maintain, feel well, have healthy muscles, healthy joints. That's my belief. So I spent my entire life searching for that proper, correct nutrition plan. And at this point, I've decided that it's probably as unique as your fingerprint. You can't just adopt a nutritional profile and expect that everything will work out. If your gut function is good and your hormones are working well and you're at just the right age, like under 50, It's a little easier, granted, it's easier. But you may also have issues with eating the wrong things at the wrong time. You could be having the perfect diet, but you might be eating too much grains too late in the day, and then you can't burn off the carbs, so your body stores it as fat later while you go to sleep. You may be getting up and doing midnight snacks, because sometimes our stomachs empty out in the middle of the night and try to flush out any food particles. So you'll get some acid, hydrochloric acid, flushing into the stomach, which gives us the sensation of hunger. But if you understand your stomach's just trying to clean itself out, you'll drink a glass of water, go back to bed. But if you don't know that, you might eat and then be injuring yourself insofar as reaching your fitness goals. Some people benefit very well from intermittent fasting. But then, what is the window that you need? Is it a 12-hour window of no food? 14 hours, 16 hours, 18 hours? Gosh, I saw a man talking about this, a 23-hour window of no food to eat one meal a day. And try to get all your calories in that one meal. Well, I've done all of them. And not a single one of these work well if done to extreme. You could also be overtraining. Some people think you got to do a lot of cardio to lose weight. But if your muscles aren't strong, they're not going to demand energy. And if they don't demand energy, they're not burning calories. Therefore, you may lose weight more slowly, or you may have a much greater challenge in maintaining your weight goals. Not to mention strength. Bone density, joint function, all of this is critically important in your fitness goals. As we age, we know that these things diminish. It's easier to start young and keep building, but honestly, you can start at any age and still get there. You just have to follow a very careful plan. So, let's talk nutrition. I went deep down the rabbit hole on this one, and that's what took me so long to get this chat together. I was doing far too much research, getting way too much information. I just couldn't even stop myself. In fact, I have a whole list of papers I want to read soon. So once I get this done, I'll get to it. But in the end, I had tried all the different diets, and if you look at my history right now, you'll see that in my 20s, as a vegetarian, then as a vegan, and then I came out of that going, well, that's not working very well for me, because as a raw vegan, I literally reached 180 pounds. I had no eyebrows, no eyelashes, my teeth had cracked, my hair couldn't grow, it kept breaking off. And I was 180 pounds, eating about 1,200 calories a day of raw vegetables and nuts and seeds, and exercising like a crazy person, as you can see through the charts. None of that was helping. Clearly, I wasn't getting healthy. It looked like I might have developed metabolic syndrome by the time I was 42. Well, I come out of osteo college, educated enough now to do some real research into my condition and see if I can figure it out and finally help myself. And in the process, maybe be able to help other people on the planet who are having similar problems with gut function, weight gain, or weight management, I should say, and just feeling well. So as I come out of college, I started taking a very deep interest in gut function, and I started studying microbiome. Your microbiome, which is the bacteria, the whole collection of bacterial DNA in your gut, is very unique, just like your fingerprint, thumbprint, any print. Very, very unique to you. And so therefore, if your gut bacteria is imbalanced, it will be very difficult to reach your fitness goals, whatever they may be, either being strength training or being able to lift weights or manage your weight or whatever. It'll be very challenging. So let's talk about this unique collection of gut microbiota. Everybody has a unique collection, although they tend to fall under a couple different phylum. Bacteroidetes, I think, and Firmicutes are the most common phylums. And then you have other breakdowns like actinobacteria, proteobacteria, things like that, to help you break down foods. But they've also found out in the last, say, 20 years of doing gut microbiome research that those bacteria are also highly involved in metabolic function, assimilation of vitamins and nutrients, breaking down foods we can't digest properly, and even manufacturing nutrients that we wouldn't be able to achieve or get into our bloodstream through just regular food alone, because it all works together. We used to believe that bacteria was the death of us, that would kill us. But honestly, we have more bacteria in our bodies than we have human cells, believe it or not. We have 10 trillion human cells on average, yet we have 100 trillion bacteria. Now, this is not all in the gut. A lot of it's in the gut, but then there's the mouth, the skin. Every part of your body has a unique microbiome. Some people are starting to suggest that maybe even the brain has its own microbiome. So if you think about it, 100 trillion cells in your body are actually not yours. They're living beings. They're bacteria. So are we really human? By that definition, we're approximately 10% human. Now, there's another number that's really interesting. If you look at the genetic makeup, the DNA of the bacteria, so all of our DNA, the human cell DNA, and all the bacterial cells' DNA, it gets even more interesting. Let me see that number again. So, 20,000 human genes, right? That's what we have on average, 20,000 human genes. But our bacteria, we have 2.2 million microbial genes. Bacterial genes. So by that definition, we're just approximately 0.1% human. So what is it to be a human? Well, that's another existential question we might get to another day, but today we'll just stick with fitness goals and nutrition. So let me show you a little bit. If you want to do some research on gut microbiome and function, there's a ton of it. This is how I went down the rabbit hole. Let me just show you. Now, this is the best site, scholar.google.com. If you really want to do actual scientific research, that's where you go do it. Not YouTube. Please, not Facebook. Not CNN. Not CNN. Scholar.google.com. Now, a lot of the recent research is very interesting. It's trying to find links between disease and gut dysbiosis, where dysbiosis means a bacterial imbalance in your gut. A lot of this is quite fascinating stuff. They've found that people with type 2 diabetes typically have far too many Collinsella aerophaciens. These bacteria they love refined carbs and sugars. So, get too many of those, we tend to develop type 2 diabetes. Now, you can cut down on those numbers and you'll cut down on the risks of developing the disease. This is what they've seen. There's a correlation. Causation, still in question. We're still doing a lot of research on that. However, there's definitely correlation. Most diseases have a correlation with some type of gut bacteria being too high or too low. There was some interesting research on mice that had no gut bacteria. They're germ-free mice. So they're born germ-free and they're fed in such a way that they never developed gut bacteria. Those mice never developed normal behavior. They didn't have any fear. So if there was a shadows of wings on the ground, they didn't run and hide like a mouse normally does. They didn't try to nest, nothing. They didn't even try to look for food. They had abnormal behaviors that would really lead to death if a normal mouse behaved like that in the wild. So bacteria is very important. It can control our behavior, like I said, immune function. It gets involved with hormonal function and everything. So throughout my years of trying all the different diets to try to fix my gut problems and essentially help my body just feel well and not have as many fibromyalgia symptoms, I never really got there. So in 2016, I did my very first stool GI map. I thought that was quite bizarre to send my poop into a lab and then they told me what was in there. But you know what? It was very useful, and I've been studying gut bacteria more in depth ever since then because now I had some numbers to work with. I had some very interesting information. This was done at Genova Labs, and I can show you a page of the report. There it is. And you'll see that it shows the Bacteroidetes and Prevotella and all these different gut bacteria. These were the most predominant ones in my gut at the time. And at the time, I was on a very very intense autoimmune paleo diet, practicing intermittent fasting. I think I was eating about 8-hour window per day. So 16 to 18 hours a day I wasn't eating at all. And that is the results of my gut function. Now, I still had a lot of food reactions. I believe I might have food sensitivities that are low grade, so I don't necessarily realize that I've had a reaction, but I feel unwell the next day. That's another question. Besides that, none of the diets really achieved the goals I was hoping that they would achieve. So after studying the gut function for a little while, I decided that maybe the best thing to do is to reassess my gut GI map every couple of months and adjust my diet accordingly. Now, the one I just showed you, I believe, is approximately $450, and I was fortunate enough to have a really kind doctor procure a free kit and do it for me. But I wouldn't be able to afford to pay for that 3 times a year to adjust my diet so that I could feel well. So I've been on the hunt for a good year now to find a company that I can work with on a regular basis. And just before Christmas, I found a company called thriveinsight.com. And I used their services because they don't require a referral from a doctor or a naturopath. Because you don't need a referral, then you're only paying for the test, as opposed to paying the referral fee, $200-300 referral fee, and then another $200-300 for the test. So some of these tests can be very expensive, from $400 to $600. Thrive does it, the premium one, for $200, and I think it is fantastic. Let's go through some of this stuff. I'll show you that you can see all the gut bacteria that they have found, and then it breaks it down into the different phylum. But my favorite function on the site is how it tells you what foods to avoid and what foods to eat. And it even tells you which foods will stimulate growth in which bacteria and which foods will diminish. If you avoid them, you'll diminish the populations of certain bacteria that may be overgrown. Now, I got this just a few days ago, and by observing the bacteria that are overgrown and the ones that are underdeveloped, I adjusted my diet a little bit to increase quite a bit more fiber. I had gone on a low residue diet last spring because I was having so many gut problems with a high fiber diet that I thought it's time to calm it down for a little while. But of course, on a low residue diet, it's very easy to gain weight because it's a lot of pasta and white bread and crappy food like that. So I decided, okay, time to reintroduce a lot of these high fiber foods, and it also showed me that some of my commensal bacteria, some of the friendly bacteria, are a little bit too low, whereas back in 2016 they were at a great level. Some of them are a bit too high. So I thought, let's try adjusting the diet, reintroducing a little bit of probiotics, which I'd taken out back in 2016 when I realized I didn't need to be drinking 2 cups of kefir per day. That was probably too much. So a few days ago, I reintroduced the kefir, and now it's been, 4 years since I haven't had any. And this time, instead of taking a whole cup, I thought I'll just take a tablespoon or 2. And I did find a significant help. Now, it's only been a few days on the new diet, so what I'm going to do is keep track of my progress and see how I do in the next few months. Am I able to rebuild my muscles? I had a pretty bad flare-up before Christmas, and I haven't really been able to work out well since then, too much joint pain and muscle spasms. But with some hormone therapy, with a product called Herbamax, which I think is just fantastic, it's really helped me with the menopausal symptoms. It's helped my muscles start to rebuild again. I'm actually starting to feel quite a bit better, and it's only been a few weeks. So in a few months, I'll report back. I'd like to repeat that Thrive test and compare the numbers and compare my symptoms from now to then. So let's see what happens.